Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Business Influence Podcast. It's me, Leroy Mark. We're still at the IMC Conference 2025, chatting everything about marketing being business. And one of the people who are doing big business in marketing is Aimee Kellen. She is from LVMH, the MH part of LVMH, Moët Hennessy. Aimee, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You were chatting to me about which was my favorite brand at your stable, and I said it's Verve. What is your favorite brand?
Gosh, it's like trying to pick a
Favorite child, right?
You know, no, I think
Unfair.
I love all of them,
Yep.
and I think I enjoy them in different moments and
Yeah.
different occasions. So.
I'm so interested in your ability. I mean, you've been in this business 17 years plus, so you know how sort of the back end, the front end works. But you represent luxury brands that really sort of head and shoulders above the rest. I mean, that must be a really big job to have on your shoulders to be able to market those wonderful assets.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's a big job. It's a big responsibility. But I'm fortunate to have a great team, you know, and I think that's something I'm really cognizant of, is that nothing's ever done on your own, you know. So we have amazing teams in our global Paris office, which we call our maisons. So each brand, actually, we call a maison.
Oh, okay.
And so it's the house of Veuve Clicquot, the house of Moët and Chandon, the house of Hennessy. So yeah, nothing's done alone. We do it in teams, and I have teams across the continent, which is amazing. So we work with brand managers and marketing managers across Africa, Middle East.
How do you find working with those luxury brands in what we see as developing nations? You know, Africa and Middle East being seen as sort of the center of development, when the rest of the global north seems to have really so developed ahead of us.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
We've got so many opportunities to do firsts, right? So that we have the opportunity to launch things that have never been launched before. So Veuve Clicquot Bold, just to build on your favorite brand, as you said.
Verve.
Many years ago, we had the Veuve Clicquot Bold Woman Awards only in South Africa, and now we've been able to launch it in Nigeria, and we have bold conversations in Dubai and bold conversations in Ghana and Ivory Coast, and it was firsts each time, you know. So I think that's very exciting, and we get to bring new things to consumers to enjoy and discover.
I like how you've been able to use this, it's a job ultimately, as wonderful as it is, but you've been really able to use it as a vehicle for change. I love what you say about the Women's Awards, because it's, we know the fairer sex enjoys the bubbles, but it's wonderful to see it being a vehicle for change, because one of the things that I like, which you said, is how, we can't create without passion, without this collective passion. Talk to me about that.
So it's really one of my values, and I really believe in excellence. So it's something that drives me. I love excellence. I love attention to detail, and all of those things are very important in luxury brand building. But on top of that, it's passion. It's around connecting the dots, finding opportunities, working with the right people, to convey your stories, and having passion for the craft. Our products come from the soil. It takes a lot of hands to create our products. It's not something you can just turn on in a factory. So it takes time, it takes craftsmanship, and a huge amount of passion to create the products of the quality that they create. And I think we owe it to those craftsmen, those winemakers, to make sure that we deliver the message of their craft with the same amount of passion and excellence and precision.
Maybe I'm then, led by a thought that, when you talk about these luxury brands and just the amount of hard work that goes into making them luxury, right? And the world where we see marketing going, lots of influence and social media marketing, where sometimes it's a bit of a minefield because it's so unregulated and it's very hard to find people who share those values. Do you think there's a place for, Moët Hennessy to be able to be in those spaces as the world changes in the way they market?
Absolutely. I think, we've heard so much today at the IMC conference, just how platforms are changing and consumers are digesting content in different ways. It's not only about watching TV anymore and, having a TV ad. And I think influencer marketing or content creation marketing is all about connecting the dots. And I think, to your point, we have brands with huge amount of history, huge amount of savoir-faire, as we call it. And it's really important for us to find ways to convey those stories. And I think talent, I like to call them talent, actually, rather than influencers, talent has amazing ways of connecting with consumers across different geographies. And I think that's where it's really interesting when we can allow amazing talent to experience our maisons, to come and to experience a harvest and then to tell the story of what they experienced to a broader audience. That's where there's some magic, I believe.
I also appreciate that, you know, in the world of marketing, and we're chatting earlier on that, you know, marketing in some sectors is seen sort of nice to have. It's a sort of plug it in. That's where we cut the budget when things are a bit tight. But it's so interesting to hear when you say how much you even, you know, invest in the talent, the influencers that you use. I mean, firstly, I know it can't be cheap to be flying people from, you know, the regions to France or whatever region, but the fact that you really invest in them, and that sort of shows, because who doesn't want to be part of that cohort? Who doesn't want to speak on behalf of the brands? How have you been able to keep the authenticity of the brand, but also find these very dynamic people able to convey the brand to your communities?
It's a great question. And I think a lot of it boils down to relationship. I think for me, you know, I'm passionate about passion, you know, people with passion, people who are committed to their craft, but also excellence. And I think relationships are built on those two foundations, and trust. You know, when you're having aligned objectives, the magic is just always there. So I think for me, making sure that we're aligned to each other's goals and really understanding who we're talking to. It's not just a question for us of finding someone through someone. We have, you know, personal relationships with the people that we engage with and the people that we host and share our brands with. And for me, that's critical because that makes it very authentic and very real. You know, I can give you an example of somebody I've journeyed with for many years, which is Maps Mapanyane.
Yeah, Maps.
I met him, you know, he was an MC at one of our events many years ago, 10 years ago, actually. He was an MC. We hosted a beautiful event to celebrate Roland Garros tennis, and Moët was involved in it, and we screened it for everybody to enjoy. And he was the MC, and I felt something in him, you know,
Yeah.
this passion, this desire to be excellent at what he was delivering for us on the day. And that, you know, it's just an example, but that was the start of a great relationship with Maps. And, you know, Nomdeni's another one. I met her again, you know, through someone, just felt something in her, her passion, and she just recently hosted our Bold Woman Awards for us, you know. So I think it's a lot about feeling and trusting that people have the same value system and objectives.
Which is very much how, you know, if you just look at how the methodology of creating some of your assets, right, like Moët Hennessy, they're all things that rely on experience and intuition and, you know, really feeling when it's time to harvest, when it's time to, you know, uncork the barrel, pour into a bottle. So it almost seems like it's even the way you approach something as dynamic as influencer marketing, it's still very thought through, very intuitive, which for me also leads on to how you've been able to, without being frenzied, to be part of this experiential marketing where, you know, we're able to experience the brand even through the talent that you get through. I mean, I love there was a particular one years ago where you guys had a bathtub, and it was at the Four Seasons Hotel in Joburg, and a bathtub full of these Moët bubbles.
I remember
And
that very well,
you know,
actually.
and we all just, it was captivating. I wasn't at the event, but I can tell you so much about it because we're able to dial in.
Amazing.
How have you been able to sort of toe the traditional with sort of, you know, also future-proofing yourself, still creating the desire without sort of losing yourself in the mixture?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of nuance, of course, but there's an element of finding that balance between allowing people in and to experience the brand. And I really believe that it's important for people to touch and feel and experience. But then also, maybe to your point, seeing it from afar, you know, and without sharing too many inside secrets. There is something, there is something about that, you know. I think it's making sure that every experience is incredibly crafted, is incredibly memorable. I think it's all about emotions, you know. People need to feel something when they come to our events, and it's always something I say to the team. What is the one thing you want people to leave knowing more about? What is that one message you want to deliver? And make sure you focus on that in your curation of that experience, and don't leave any detail untouched. I think that's, for me,
I
very
think the attention to detail is so very evident, and which leads us to my next point. Then how do we future-proof, right? How do we make sure that we still keep that very deep, I call the kind of experience that we have with the brands in LVMH, MH in this in particular iteration, about how it feels like slow marketing, as in you get to really stop and savor, stop and enjoy, whereas the rest of the time we're just getting so much data being thrown at us. It's one moment it flashes and another one it flashes.
Yeah.
But in a Moet moment, in a Verve moment, in a Hennessy moment, you know, I mean, there's this wonderful ad that you guys have where we see the bottle for hours. It feels like hours, but you get to really appreciate the bottle from
Yeah.
a Hennessy point of view.
Yeah.
So how do you future-proof, right, where the world becoming faster and you still remaining deliberately slower, more savory?
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, and I think we always talk about respecting our past, but looking to the future. You know, so we try and take some of the founding values of our founders and maintain those today, but adapt, of course, to be relevant. So, you know, Veuve Clicquot, Madame Clicquot was incredibly passionate. She was audacious. She was innovative. She created some of the firsts in the Champagne region, and we try and take that philosophy and bring it into today's world, which is the Bold Woman Awards. It's a way of us celebrating her audacity, you know, her creativity. So we have to, in luxury, be stimulated by our founders and by our history
Yes.
to propel us into the future. You know, we don't change our positioning. Our positioning was defined for us 250 years
Yeah.
ago. It's just we bring it to life in a different way. You know, Moët has stood for the same things for hundreds of years. You know, the Maison has been around for more than 270 years. So there's huge amount of history and DNA. It's all about glamour and grandeur and celebration and moments of effortless chic, you know. And I think that's what guides us, is how do we take our founding principles, our DNA, and merge it with what is relevant today. And that's really our job as marketers and our job as, you know, curators at the moment who serve the brands. You know, that's something I always tell my team as well. We have to think, what is the chapter we want to write during this time that we're serving the brands, whether you're the brand manager on Hennessy in South Africa or the brand manager of Glenmorangie in Dubai. What is that chapter? What is the headline of the time that you looked after the brand?
I love the again, I mean it with respect, the slowness of it all, that you in a world where the marketing has become so cut and paste, and I love what you say, you're serving the brand, you know. And I think even in our little corner where, yes, it's much faster in influencer marketing, we also need to constantly be saying, how am I serving the chapter that I'm writing for the brand I'm part of at the moment? And I think that's the magic we need to be playing for. So that's my nugget I'm taking out of our conversation today. I think my final parting shot is to just find out, how do you, you know, shoulder this very heavy burden, because you've got such a rich history, such legacy with the brands, but also, you know, you need to make sure that the history that you write in that moment is the right kind of history, you know.
I think it's three things for me. It's curiosity, making sure we don't rest on our laurels, keep asking, be curious, you know, speak to people, connect with people. I love traveling and I love meeting different people. And, you know, that slowness, you talk about that opportunity to sit at a dining table with people you've never met. That's such a rich opportunity to learn and, you know, nourish yourself. So I think make sure you maintain curiosity. That's key. Make sure you stay connected. So plug into things, make sure you're feeling what's going on, and then collaborate. I think it's really something that I've believed in for many years, and I've had so many proof points in the power of collaboration, whether it be with other stakeholders in your industry or beyond, with media partners, with agencies, just making sure that you're collaborating and working together as one, as a team.
I love it. The 3 C's from Aimee. Aimee, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing more beautiful, elegant events in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's, yes, Aimee Kellen from Moët Hennessy. And maybe it's time for us to charge a glass. It's lunchtime. We can have some Hennessy right now, right?
Are you listening? Damn.